Hi everyone, Karen Roby here for TechRepublic. I'm happy today to be joined up with Veronica and Brandon Vigliarolo, both with TechRepublic. Guys, thanks for being with me today. This is fun to talk about the Olympics, of course, upon us here in Beijing, for Winter Olympics 2022. And with all of the excitement, all of the fun, there's always security issues, unfortunately, that are boring and not great that we have to talk about, but it is what it is, and they are super important for obvious reasons. Veronica, let's start with you here. You put a great article together, in part talking about the app for starters that could be an issue, whether the athletes are using it, their coaches, whoever it may be. It could be of a little bit of a security risk here.
Yeah, so it's called My 2022, and if you want to get into the Olympic Village, you have to use this app. The main purpose is to do COVID-19 attestation, like I tested negative, here's my proof, that kind of thing. So it's for that, but there's other data that the athletes have in there, and there is a security research center in Toronto, and they looked at it. It's, there's an Android version and Apple version, and they found that the app does not consistently use secure encryption to go back and forth when you're trading data. So, if there's a dozen different servers that the app is connecting with, some of them don't use a secure connection. So they found that the app was vulnerable to man-in-the-middle attacks. So I could be saying, here's my test results, I'm healthy. And instead of going to the Olympic Committee, it could be going to someone else. And one of the researchers that I talked to was really concerned about athletes in the village because, if you get a backdoor into private information, you could use that information for blackmail or to, get someone to pressure someone to do something that, maybe is not exactly legal. So he saw some general risk in going to China, Beijing, but then the app having these security problems is a whole nother level of concern for the athletes.
Yeah, it definitely is. Veronica, Brandon, when we talk about security, it used to be, for years, when you talk about going to the Olympics, your actual physical security was always a concern, regardless of which country was hosting. And it was something to always keep in mind, and all these tips and things. But we have to really focus on our mobile devices, what we're bringing with us. And a lot of things can go wrong, Brandon.
Yeah, especially with that app already being as full of holes, as Veronica said. So one of the things that I'm sure anyone who's been following the Olympics, technology surrounding the Olympics this year has heard is probably bring a burner, right? If you're going to Beijing, bring a burner. Doesn't matter if you're an athlete, you're a news person covering it, whoever, bring a burner phone. But even then, if you bring a burner and you're using this holy app, right? If you got private information in there, which you almost have to by necessity, then that's just one more ingress path for someone to steal private data, even if you're not using your own smartphone. Other than that, there's other threats that people need to face or are going to face when they're in China. A lot of crowd, those events are going to be busy. Even though there's less spectators than usual, there's going to be crowds. That opens up physical security hassles. It also creates a huge attack surface for countless different attendees that cyber criminals are surely going to want to exploit. Also, another thing to consider is the fact that China has their great firewall. Aubrey Turner from Ping, who's an executive advisor that I talked to write this article, he was saying that when you're in China, that great firewall exists, and so most of the sites outside of China that anyone is going to want to visit are blocked. In order to bypass that, you got to use a VPN. China knows that, right? China has often, Audrey said, they kind of look the other way in regards to VPNs, but that doesn't mean they're always going to do that, right? So if you're using a VPN to reach out to sites that you would normally access when you're stateside or wherever your country of origin is, that might not be as secure as you think it is, right? Someone could be snooping. Even if they don't know where you're visiting, they're going to know that you're using a VPN. And it might not be one that the Chinese government prefers. So, there's always a possibility that you're going to be putting yourself at risk for that as well. Aubrey pretty much said that the way you need to think about going to the Olympics is basically like a company, all right? So if you're going to be online, if you're going to be anywhere, minimize your attack surface, right? And there's a lot of things you can do to do that, including bringing a burner, which, also comes with its own set of best practices. He recommends if you're going to get a burner phone, get one in your country of origin before you leave, right? That's going to eliminate the chances of you being scammed by someone who doesn't speak the same language, right? Get it where you're at. Get the SIM card before you leave. Chances are that's going to save you money too if you're using a provider you normally deal with. Don't use your own email address. Set up a temporary email address. Don't log into any personal accounts on that burner phone. Obviously, you're going to be limited by the fact that you've got to use that Olympic app. But other than that, don't put Instagram, Facebook, or any of those things on your phone. Just, it's going to suck, especially if you're there trying to share things with people, right? But the point is that if you try to share anything, you're opening yourself up and you're widening your attack surface. Also, use multi-factor authentication on your phone, right? It's a burner, but it doesn't mean you can't be as secure as possible. Turn off Bluetooth, AirDrop, Wi-Fi, cameras, microphones, anything that can transmit or receive data should be off unless you're actively using it. Don't use any untrusted cables, right? Even a cable can snoop data nowadays. Don't use charging booths, right? Bring your own stuff, plug into an outlet that with a charger and a cable that you trust. There's all kinds of things you need to consider that you can do to minimize that attack surface. But it's going to be tough for anyone who's going.
It is going to be tough. And, and the sad part about that too, for obvious reasons, when you're there, somewhere like there, you have so much you want to share with others, your pictures and just your, I've observed this and that. And especially for journalists, I mean, that makes it really hard. It's not just as simple as going on your own phone and there, just like when you're at home. But hopefully, Brandon, the FBI, of course, coming out a couple days ago saying, yes, you need a burner, for the athletes, the journalists, everyone. So hopefully taking that really into account. And, Veronica, when we talk about security, it can never be secure enough because as past Olympic experiences have proven, as we know, a lot of things can go wrong, very serious issues that can really take things offline and make things for the leadership for the Olympics very difficult for them to deal with.
Right. It's not just your own personal security, but it's security of the transportation system and the water system. And, as everything becomes online, everyone's excited about the Internet of Things and connecting everything to the internet. That comes with some great efficiencies, but it also increases your attack surface, just like for individuals, as Brandon mentioned. So one of the analysts I talked to said that, Beijing is a smart city, so they have some of this technology in place already. They're recognized as, I think, the #5 smartest city in the world. So that they have a lot of these systems connected already. And when you have all these people in this one place, the analyst said, that's a chance for a bad actor to make a really big splash. You get a lot of attention if you manage to take down any part of the Olympic experience. And so the product developer at Clarity said that it's really important to segment your network, right? So if your water system is connected to the internet, it shouldn't be connected to everything else that's on the internet. You should be able to segment that off. And so that was one of his suggestions. And he said, the chances are low, but he did bring up the 2018, I think it was, Olympics in South Korea. And a cyber attack started during the opening ceremonies, and the target was their entire network. So all of the badges that gave you access to buildings, the Wi-Fi, all of the connected TVs that were showing the schedule and the results and things like that. And so the South Korean team that was in charge of this giant infrastructure to support the games managed to contain it, work through the night, got things back up. But that was because they had been practicing for 3 or 4 years to just in case this might happen. They at least they had a plan, and it wasn't, they weren't sitting there in shock for too long before they kicked into gear to try to fix it. So he said that really doing those tabletop exercises and thinking of the worst case scenario is really important, so that if and when it happens, you're ready. And he said, more and more of these smart systems come online every day, which just means that many more things to worry about, whether you're, running your own house on a smart network or you're managing the Olympic Games.
Yeah. And clearly they're not going to be graceful with it. They didn't waste any time hitting right at the opening ceremony. So they were coming out with a bang there to make a splash. And like you said, when you have that many people together in this high profile of an event, that's when the bad actors are ready to pounce. Well, Brandon, final thoughts here from you, just a couple of bullet points, maybe what you would pass on to people. Again, just reminders, if you're heading to the Olympics, if you're going to be a part of it in any way, shape or form, a couple bullet point things to keep in mind to keep you safe.
Yeah, of course. So I think one of the important things to keep in mind while you're there is, right, so there is a lot of restriction on travel and attendance, right? So most, if not all, the people you're going to encounter at the Olympics are going to be other people who are there for a reason, which means that all of you collectively are probably a more enticing target. You've got more sensitive access to data. You've got more responsibilities. You're not just a visitor. You're a journalist. You're a coach. You're an athlete. So be aware of that. Be aware that everyone who's there is just as much a target as you, and your only thing you can do is make yourself a smaller target. It's also worth noting that most of this advice doesn't just apply to Beijing, it applies to the entire world. The US State Department keeps a really good log of travel advisories, and those are going to include little differences in law, things like that you might not be aware of when you're traveling with a device that you need to know about. So be aware that everyone else is just in as much a danger as you are. and check those websites no matter where you're going to determine what kind of things you need to be aware of.
Yeah, excellent advice. And like you said, whether you're traveling for this or anything, these are all really important tips. They can all apply for what you may be doing, and just need to play it safe. Brandon and Veronica, I appreciate you both being here with me today. Of course, we have much more, and their full articles and all the tips there that you need on Tech Republic. We hope you will check it out there. Thanks for watching.